right, so Sean Penn absolutely goes crazy with war propaganda on Face the Nation. I think he was on. Yeah, this is a clip from this morning. We've already covered a Face the Nation clip. Sean Fain, or a different Sean, was on from UAW, but this one, this is a doozy. And Aaron Monte, shout out to Aaron Monte. This is where I saw it first, and I saw the quote, and I was like, no way he said that. So let me zoom in so you can see Aaron Monte's tweet. And you see where he says there at the top, he says, this is a quote that Aaron wrote, only cowards fear World War III. This is a quote from brave military genius Sean Penn. And he has a new, so it says, here's Face the Nation. Let's go to their tweet and I'll read it. Sean Penn, co-director of Superpower, the new Paramount Plus documentary about the war in Ukraine, says the U.S. response to Russia's invasion has fallen. Quote, at some point, caution becomes cowardice. He tells Margaret Brennan, it's been to date a tragic mistake. Now, this is a classic case where Hollywood, or this is a perfect example, is a better way of saying it, where Hollywood comes in to do their part in the war propaganda for the empire, because the counteroffensive went terrible. Public support for the war is lopsided. It's in the negative now. So what are they going to do? Are they going to be democratic and go with the support the vast majority of people are saying? No. They'll just come in and bring Hollywood in to whitewash and to propagandize you into supporting what they want to do. And that's what they're doing here with this segment. It's pretty terrible. This guy, I can't tell if he's acting or he's just, and I'm using this phrase not to be offensive, nuts. He sounds nuts. So let's listen.
Actor and director Sean Penn is the co-director of a new documentary called Superpower. It's about President Zelensky and the war in Ukraine. Zelensky agreed to meet with Penn in person for the first time on camera on the same day Russia launched its full-scale invasion of Ukraine. With Penn on Friday about his new film. In one of the clips, Andrei Yermak, one of the top advisors to President Zelensky, says to you, the U.S. position should be stronger. If the United States and Joe Biden doesn't do something now, essentially, he says America's over. That followed with a pretty robust financial investment by the United States, more than $50 billion, pledges of weapons. But from what I've heard you say, you think the United States isn't doing enough.
It is my absolute feeling that the caution.
Does he know the shit that we've sent him? The ordering of tanks, the munition, the cluster munition, and then more recently, I think the jet fighters. I mean, there's so many terrible things that just recently has been sent. And there's another story that I'm not even going to get to, where Anthony Blinken is talking about this. He was questioned about this, I think, on State of the Union or one of the shows today. Like, this is insane. Our government is already unhinged with Ukraine, and then we have people saying you're soft on Ukraine, like this clown right here. Let's listen to Sean Penn.
With which the United States has pledged support, which seemed, in my reading of, to be concerning. The likelihood is extremely low. And as one of our witnesses in the film says, are we going to let a gangster with nuclear weapons dictate the way we live?
We absolutely are not going to let Joe Biden dictate how we live, sir. Thank you, Sean Penn. You're obviously talking about Joe Biden, right? Sean Penny. Let's go back a little bit and let's see. Let's hear him say. You tell me he's not describing Joe Biden?
And as one of our witnesses in the film says, are we going to let a gangster with nuclear weapons dictate the way we live?
A gangster with nuclear weapons dictate the way we live. That sounds spot on at Joe Biden.
So I think that, and that the Ukrainians won't let him do that.
In the documentary, you spoke with a Ukrainian fighter pilot named Juice, who I understand was killed later in a training incident. Was your personal connection to him and the case he made to you part of why you are pushing this point on F-16?
This is pretty disgusting here. Do you see this propaganda? I wasn't expecting to examine it this way, but seeing it again, watching this again, I'm just seeing it through a different light. This is pretty disgusting what they're doing here. Connecting the life of somebody who obviously they're referring to somebody who has died in the war and saying, is that why you want to push to escalate this war? That's basically what she's asking. That is pretty disgusting right there. So you see the pairing of Hollywood willing to do the bidding of war propagandists and media, corporate media, willing to push the envelope for their weapons manufacturer sponsors and donors. This is insane. Why aren't we trying to save lives, Sean Penn? Why do you want to turn this up? Isn't 50 billion? We already sent them 100 billion. Why isn't 100 billion already not enough when this is not even our war? Why isn't that the position of our media?
So strongly?
I was pushing it when I was with Juice and he was alive. He dreamt of flying F-16s. I think that he was a man who was born into a time where he had to do this extreme thing, and he did it with poise and skill and focus and compassion. And so he had come to Washington to lobby for the F-16s and also was buying helmets for his helicopter pilot friends on eBay here to bring back. So it was like that. And then I suppose now, was it July that it was announced that there would now be an F-16 program, those resources
eventually, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God, you hear her? You hear her? Eventually. The unhinged nature, just march towards war and killing and death is just crazy, shocking.
And a couple of weeks later, I got the message that he'd been killed. I think not only would Juice be alive today if we had been as bold as we like to claim to be.
He's acting now. He's doing his role. Was he nominated for the role with Susan Sarandon movie, Dead Man Walking? That's literally one of my favorite movies, Dead Man Walking. Malcolm X was by Spike Lee. Spike Lee is my favorite all time, but that's Dead Man Walking, Susan Sarandon, Sean Penn. Great acting in that movie. Both of them. I think she won an Oscar for that, and maybe he was nominated. I can't remember. But anyway, the point being, he's doing that level acting right here. And if you don't know the movie, Dead Man Walking he was a convicted murderer, and he was on death row, and he had the death penalty, and that's what they call people on death row with the death penalty. You're dead because you're going to be killed. So you're a dead man walking when you're walking to your execution, dead man walking. That's what the jail workers call out. That's bringing you to your execution. And it shows what it's like, that person who he gets the opportunity to see his family for the last time in that session, his kids. It's a very emotionally taxing sort of scene and movie, but he's bringing that level of acting. I'm telling you, it's very good acting. He's bringing it back for this, because this is pretty disgusting what he's doing here, and she's willing to participate in it. But let's listen to the rest of this here.
A couple of weeks later, I got the message that he'd been killed. I think not only would Juice be alive today if we had been as bold as we like to claim to be historically as a country, with our principles, with our Republicans and our Democrats, with our leadership. The citizenry too, while we were putting all those Ukrainian flags out, we should have demand decisiveness in this case, because at some point, caution becomes cowardice.
Wow. At some point, caution becomes cowardice. This guy, man.
There's still an opportunity for us to do the right thing.
58% of Americans polled by CBS disapprove.
This is why he's here. This is what he's to combat. She's telling you the number of people is like, it's not close. It's close to 60%, 6 out of 10 people. And that's probably the generous poll where they know where to go to poll people to get the best results. If they just poll everybody's poll, it's probably a lot higher than that. But do you think they're going to stop? No. What they have to do is now convince you even more. And that's what they're doing with this propaganda documentary by Sean Penn. Let me rewind it back and ask this question again.
Republicans and our Democrats, with our leadership, the citizenry too, while we were putting all those Ukrainian flags out, we should have demand decisiveness in this case, because at some point, caution becomes cowardice.
Oh my God.
There's still an opportunity for us to do the right thing.
58% of Americans polled by CBS disapprove of the way Joe Biden is handling the situation with Russia and Ukraine. And I'm getting the sense from you, you're disappointed too.
Yeah, I respect President Biden very much.
These motherfuckers trying to spin that disapproval is that he's not doing enough. Are you guys trying to spin this? You know damn well, Brennan, I think that's her last name, that they're saying they think he shouldn't be sending more funding to Ukraine. You know damn well that's what that poll is referring to. But now we're trying to make it vague, like he should be doing more. It's
much. There have been a couple of things that I think have been disasters up to this point. This
is next level propaganda. It's not quite Morning Joe, but this is not normal face-to-face propaganda. They took it up a notch for this segment.
And it should be an implicit understanding between private citizens and leaders in government that, you know, there are things that I don't know about, things that need to remain classified.
Right.
So every day, even when I was with Juice, I was privately thinking, yes, it's our job to fight this fight. But privately, I was thinking, but maybe they're doing it behind closed doors, and tomorrow we're going to wake up to that squadron. Enough time has passed. I think it's been to date a tragic mistake, and I hope and encourage.
Why are people like this? Why are corporate media platforming people who don't have any sort of expertise by even your own standards? How is he even talking about this stuff? Why does he get a slot on Face the Nation to talk about war as if he is an expert? Why is that the case? They do the same thing with Bill Gates. Why is Bill Gates talking about COVID? Why is he here? It's so very weird. And people just eat that shit up and let it go, but it's ridiculous. All right, so I'll let it play maybe another minute, and then I'll cut this here.
This president, that he deserves the legacy of doing this properly.
Polling also shows big majorities of Americans continue to support economic sanctions on Russia. 61% of Republicans, though, say the U.S. should not send weapons to Ukraine. 50% say the U.S. should not send aid and supplies to Ukraine. That is a big shift from where the Republican Party was in terms of, in the past, being very strong on Russia. But some of it, in terms of the rhetoric, reflects this sense that America needs to fix itself at home. How do you respond to that thinking?
I think there's more than a compelling argument that would change those minds. And I understand why they're confused. I mean, I'm hoping in its little way that...
So they're confused, not that they have a different, better than opinion than yours. They're just confused.
That this film can help context.
This film can help change your mind, propagandize you. These motherfuckers, man. No
I
shame
would
at
be
all.
confused if I hadn't had the opportunity to do this.
Better communication of the why and the
What?
justification
Yeah, I think
for
if
the
our-
billions of dollars of
Yeah,
American
if the
spending.
current leadership would just do one thing now, it would be the president saying to his cabinet, we are
So Sean Penn is saying that him doing the documentary and interviewing a bunch of people who's not currently fighting the war or doesn't have the superior authority over anybody in the war, he knows more than Joe Biden, the people that's pulling that has the puppet strings of Zelensky that's controlling all this. That's what he's thinking. That's what he's trying to say. Is like I said, why is this? Why are they allowing this even to be on TV?
not spinning the story on Ukraine anymore. So if it's about what are they capable of, we're going to let our commanders in Fresno at the Cal National Guard that's been doing joint military exercises with them for 30 years tell us what their capability is. And we're going to say it unfiltered to the American people.
You end the documentary talking about this feeling of unity you had when you were in Ukraine, and you compare it to what you see here at home. And you actually end on the images of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, the congresswoman, and Marjorie Taylor Greene of Georgia. And you say, we're going backwards. Why do you think they symbolize that?
Marjorie Taylor Greene and AOC, why do they symbolize going backwards? I would say it's because AOC is the one that's pro-Ukraine war, and Marjorie Taylor Greene is the one that's pretending not to be for the Ukraine war. This is, I can't say how shocking this is to me that they are doing this. It's because it feels like this is so out in the open, so like in your face propaganda. They're desperate. So let's listen to the numbers again. Unhinged maniac right here.
Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, the congresswoman,
That's what we're talking
and
about.
Marjorie Taylor Greene of Georgia. And you say, we're going backwards. Why do you think they symbolize that?
I think that we've come to a point where we as the voters, we as the citizens have to look at our politicians and say, look, you're very smart. We agree with your policy. Why would you want to call it socialist? Why would you want to put up a middle finger to people who have a reaction to that? You're a leader. Just get the policy across. I'm not interested in these people self-celebrating or grandstanding. Jerks like me do enough of that. Leaders can't
like what
do
you're
that.
doing now.
And so on the right, on the left, we have to demand that people actually are accountable.
I'm going to end it here. Is it me, or does it, this whole interview, it felt like he was just about to cry, like he was on the edge of crying this entire interview, listening to his voice. Is it me? Can somebody say that? Am I crazy? Or did it feel like he was literally on the doorstep of crying that entire interview?